Looking good. Looking forward to the day.
Yep. Amen. And then God will win.
Every good thing you do, God win.
Yeah.
Yes. If you win the contract, God has won.
Yeah.
If you win election, God has won.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, just make sure you share the profit.
You know that whenever AJ plays this song, then something has happened.
Oh yes.
She'll usually look there. I don't get alert.
Yes.
God will win.
When the
Not just at home.
Salary has come, money has landed. All right, so in the vibe of that song, let's jump straight into newspapers. Coach, I'll start with you.
Okay, the Ghanaian Times has the COVID-19 vaccine story. 600,000 doses land in Ghana. First recipient of WHO COVAX consignment in Africa. Ho notorious gangster jailed 39 years. On Okada, no legislation of Okada government affirms. And parties in election petition file closing addresses before Supreme Court.
The Daily Graphic says, Galamsey fight hasn't failed. Minister designate Mahama EC Akufo-Addo will Supreme Court in closing addresses. COVID-19 vaccination starts Tuesday.
Abu Jinapo is on the front page of the new Crusading Guide. Tackling Galamsey menace, strong, effective regulation is the way. Abu Jinapo. 24th February is Ghana's Day of Shame. This is the Socialist Forum. Etiwa West DCE tout developmental projects. Amidst deepening chieftaincy crisis, help bring lasting peace to Nungwa, Akufo-Addo urged. And the big news, Ghana receives 600,000 COVID-19 vaccines.
The Daily Guide says, cancel 2020 results. Mahama files address. National Security raid LGBT office. Government won't legalize Okada. John Jinapo proposes... Abu Jinapo proposes Soil Development Authority. And 600,000 COVID-19 vaccines land in Accra.
There's a photo of the vaccines being evacuated from the aircraft, and there's an insert of Grace Ayan. And the headline that goes to that on the front page of the Daily Post says, medical doctor blasts government, says keeping vaccines in the hot sun just for a ceremony is scientifically and medically unsafe. Robber, ex-convict, jailed 39 years for robbery and rape. Ministry for Public Enterprise is another useless ministry. This is NDC's Felix Kwachiofusu. And Ras Mubarak, journalists call for legislation to bar media from airing LGBTQI plus comments.
The Daily Statesman says COVID-19 vaccine deployment starts March 2. Mahama's frivolous petition confirms my 2020 victory. President Akufo-Addo declares, I'm for strong, effective, small-scale mining regulation, says Abu Jinapo.
Chronicle. President's lawyer tells Supreme Court Mosquito Rojo performed abysmally, but Mahama's lawyers insist witnesses were truthful. Sustainable and regulated small-scale mining is assured. This is Jinapo. COVID-19 vaccination start next week as 600,000 doses arrive, and court grants plaintiff leave to prove alleged fraud in judgment.
The BNFT says banks must keep to brand promise, not just profits. That's according to CIB. Revenue from international trade exceeds target by 176% in Q3 2020, but other revenue streams keep dwindling. So that's what the BNFT has.
Let me take you online, citynewsroom.com. Uncompleted Cath maternity block risks collapse. This is according to the contractor who's justifying the demolition. Also, we would begin deployment of vaccines next week. This is in Siansari, telling us about the vaccines. Now, Ameu's vetting two headlines. I never seized excavators during my tenure, and I would have won Hallway with higher margin if SAL results or if SAL residents had voted. This is what Mr. Ameu is saying. Of course, we know already about Ayine and Supreme Court issues happening today as well. In other stories, Techiman South NDC's case challenging constituency election results adjourned indefinitely. Now, if you go to myjournalline.com, the lead story there, police raid and close down Ashomang office of LGBT plus group. Also, investigate Frontiers COVID testing contract at KIA. This is Vitus Azim. And A plus corruption allegations against me were unfounded, according to Samuel Abu Jinapo. Meanwhile, Ameu says railway is a viable sector that comes with many advantages. Star FM contempt Supreme Court to determine Ayine's fate today. Also, I'll apply the law without fear to fight Galamsey. This is Jinapo. And I withdraw Mahama Conman comment. This is John Peter Ameu. If you go to City Business News, gas subsector becoming a fiscal bedding to the economy. This is IES. Also, we're told Ghana Citi is expected to be stable for the rest of 2021, and shipping lines have been urged not to charge new rates until the third quarter. Of all the international stories, one of the things that caught my attention was that the story that says lockdown has made London a boom town for rats. Lockdown has made London a boom town for rats. Meanwhile, there's a special feature on CNN why India's COVID cases are plummeting. And we are told that daily infections in the country are dropping nearly 90% in just 5 months. And there are some interesting analysis behind that. Let's start with the stories you have in front of you.
Okay, the Daily Graphic talks about Samuel Abujinapo's vetting. So let's start from there. It says Galamsey fight hasn't failed. So the Minister Designate for Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Samuel Abujinapo, has said the government's fight against illegal mining cannot be labeled as a failure. He said no government had shown such commitment to fight illegal mining, also known as Galamsey, under the Fourth Republic, as had been done by the Nana Akufo-Addo administration. And there's a quote, says, I want to insist that the efforts of the president in his first term in dealing with illegal mining are unprecedented. I don't think there's any government in the Fourth Republic that has taken on this fight in the manner that we did. End quote. So that's what he said when he met the appointment.
There's a few other things that came out there.
On Jinapo Galamsey related issues. Remember the 500 excavators matter?
Yes.
He said he told the appointments committee that the excavators were not 500 and that they were not missing and that they were just 209. And he said the figures were given to him by the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining, a body which took part in the fight against Galamsey. He indicated that the figure 500 was just one that was made up by media personnel.
You can't be serious. In fact, Haruna Adriso asked him that there were 3 different figures, one given by Ken Oforiatta, one in the parliamentary Hansard, and one that he was saying. So you should reconcile the 3. And he said he was going to come back to Parliament, if approved, to give them a briefing on the status of Galamsey. Now, on excavators, John Peter Amewu says, I never seized excavators during my tenure, still from the vetting. Now, Minister Designate for Railway Development, John Peter Amewu, has insisted that he never seized excavators during his tenure as Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. Now, a number of the excavators that were at illegal mining sites were seized by the Interministerial Task Force on Illegal Mining during the peak of the war against illegal mining in Ghana. Peter Amewu, during his vetting, however, said excavators were withdrawn but not seized. Then here's a quote. While I was Minister for Lands, I never seized any excavator. What I did was, I was Minister for that sector to ask for the withdrawal of excavators from mining sites. About 500, this is what he said, about 500 were withdrawn from the sites, but they were not seized, Peter Amewu told Parliament's Appointments Committee.
Now, on rosewood, which is an issue that we need to be worried about.
So just for Jinapo's attention, his predecessors mentioned the figure 500 as well, even though he says they were not seized.
Yeah.
So the figure 500 was not created by the media.
Now, he also mentioned rosewood. He answered questions on rosewood. And he was questioned on interventions he will put in place to stop the menace. And according to him, the reason government placed a ban on the harvesting of rosewood is not because it is illegal to harvest it, but due to the manner in which it was being harvested. He says Ghana is a signatory to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, of which rosewood has not been listed as endangered. But the Ghanaian government imposed a ban on it because it was being harvested in an unsustainable way, and that he will manage that particular part of his ministry.
So is that all for the vetting? Main stories from the vetting on yesterday.
There are some other stories from the vetting.
Just run to, for example, Amewu says he would have won SAL by a bigger margin. That's okay. Anything else? If not, let's go into the vaccines because there's a new angle to that.
Yeah, page 16 of the Daily Graphic. It says vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination starts Tuesday. Now, the country is set to begin COVID-19 vaccination from next Tuesday as part of measures to stop the further spread of the viral disease. This follows the arrival of the first consignment of 600,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine Covishield in Accra yesterday. The vaccine arrived at exactly 7:45 a.m. aboard Emirates Airlines flight EK787, shifting global attention onto the country for chalking up another first, because Ghana became the first country to receive the COVID-19 vaccine from COVAX, which has 92 beneficiary countries signed on to it, the WHO said.
Anything else on this one?
Now, on this, Dr. Grace Ayan has slammed the Akufo-Addo government over the manner in which it received the first consignment of the COVID-19 vaccines. a short ceremony which saw the minister designate for health in attendance saw the consignment after being brought out of the freezers in the plane, staying in the sun for well over 30 minutes as a ceremony took place. And she said, keeping the vaccines in, if you break the cold chain, it might reduce the efficacy of the vaccine, and the government...
Well, I actually asked Dr. Nsiasari this on the point of view yesterday. His point was that the cold chain was actually within the package, so the ceremony would not increase the temperatures in any way. In fact, he also allayed the fears over the safety of the AstraZeneca vaccine because, again, we asked him South Africa's decision to put its rollout on hold after a study showed disappointing results against the country's new variant. Now, his answer was that the predominant variant in Ghana is the UK variant, not the South African variant, and therefore the AstraZeneca vaccine designed with Ghana in mind would work. And he says from 2nd March, the vaccine deployment will begin, and the president and the vice president will be the first to take it. He also mentioned other frontline health workers. He even added the media that they were also going to be given the shots as well.
On page 17 of the Daily Graphic, the NCC is telling people to disregard negative theories about the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, the Bulsa North Municipal Director of the NCCE in the Upper East region, Mr. Jeffrey Ada, has urged members of the public to disregard negative conspiracy theories about the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, he said so when he addressed a community dinner organized by the NCCE in collaboration with the Information Services Department to sensitize beneficiaries of the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program in the municipality to the COVID-19 vaccine.
Kojo, the other story has to do with the office that was shut down in Ashom. We have some photos and some angles here on both Citi Newsroom and myjoyonline.com.
Then I'll give you something from the Daily Post related to that.
Okay, so the story says the Ghana Police Service and personnel of National Security have locked up the 5-bedroom apartment serving as an office for LGBTQI rights in Ghana. The security operatives raided the office after the owner of the apartment complained about suspicious activities taking place at his facility. The officials, together with the landlord, were at the building, and the Traditional Council of Kwabinya also joined them to the premises to lock up the facility. According to the landlord, Dr. Sensu Jambibi, the use of his facility for the LGBTI activities is a breach of the tenancy agreement because the tenant, one Alex Kofi Donko, rented the facility under the pretext, he says, of using it as an office for a health NGO. And then the Kwamiya Traditional Council also condemned the activities within the catchment area and vowed to resist the establishment of the office there. And then we have a video. And then meanwhile, the LGBTI plus rights Ghana via their Twitter handle confirmed the incident, indicating that they are all safe at the moment. So that's the story that came from the Kwabinya area yesterday.
And Ras Mubarak and some journalists are calling for legislation to bar the media from airing LGBTQI comments.
Can't be serious
in the country.
Seriously.
Anyway, Bernard, let me take you to the Ghanaian Times because there are some other stories there with respect to the Supreme Court.
Yes, that's the other big story today.
Parties in election petition file closing addresses before Supreme Court. Malik Suleiman writes that all the three parties in the ongoing 2020 election petition filed their closing addresses to convince the Supreme Court to determine the case one way or the other. The Electoral Commission and President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who are the first and second respondents, were the first to file in accordance with the order of the court.
So we also told that the Supreme Court hearing for Ayene's case, as in the
contempt.
Yes, so let me give you an angle on citinewsroom.com. It says the Supreme Court to determine the fate of spokesperson for John Mahama in the election petition, Dr. Dominic Ayine, with regards to contempt charges against him. The former deputy AG was brought before the court on Monday for making comments deemed to have scandalized the court and undermined it in the eyes of the court. Now, this related to media interviews he granted in the name of the petitioner, when he said that he believed that a particular judgment was predetermined. Now, he was asked to go to the same platform, which is the media, and basically purge himself of the contempt. So he rendered an unqualified and unreserved apology to the bench. He wrote a letter, and he also granted an interview in the company of Frank Davis from the MPP side and apologized for what he said. So I think that's done. Let's come to the statement.
Well, the statement says the Council for President Akufo-Addo has urged the Supreme Court to dismiss the election petition filed by John Dramani Mahama, arguing that the petition was frivolous and only confirmed the declaration made by the EC on December 9, 2020. Now, this was captured in a closing address filed at the Supreme Court. And the president's legal team argued that the testimonies by Mr. Mohammed's witnesses clearly demonstrated that the president won the polls. And they described the petition as, quote, an industry in futility.
You remember yesterday we read the NDC site or Mohammed's final address where they were saying that nobody won the election. So this is the MPP own. We're going to have to wait today. In fact, it's 4th March that judgment will be determined. We don't know though whether the two sides would present these two addresses verbally or whether they will just file them. So we'll be in court to check what happens and we'll let you know.
Let me take you to Nungwa, where the leaders are urging Nana Akufo-Addo to help bring peace to Nungwa.
Okay.
The story is in the New Crusading Guide. It says, in the midst of the deepening Nungwa chieftaincy crisis, some elders in the community have waded into the matter, calling on the president to intervene to bring about lasting peace. They said the situation was militating against the development in Nungwa and its environs, and they are pleading with the government to set up a system to deal with the chieftaincy issues within the region.
I thought you wanted to call Konfanoche, your favorite
Yes. I want
project that has not been finished.
Yes.
Uncompleted Konfanoche maternity block risk collapse. Contractor justifies demolition. This story is by Hafiz Tijani from Kumasi. Now, widespread cracks with rusted iron rods and weak pillars holding the 44-year-old maternity and children's block of the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital could have led to the facility's collapse, according to consultants and contractors in charge of the redevelopment of the facility. They've maintained that their recommendation for the building to be pulled down was based on safety threats and the structure posed if it was completed for future use in the form in which it was. Now, during the tour of the facility with journalist Emmanuel Asabre, project manager for Akito Contract, Akito, the consultancy firm in charge of the project, attributed the deterioration of the building to its exposure to the weather. He was of the opinion that the weather is a major effect on the building that has deteriorated as quickly as we've seen it. I mean, a building that's older than all of us sitting in this room obviously would not be a safe building for somebody to just go and continue fixing. So basically, he's saying that it's been raining, so you see it keeps going through the whole building and the whole building is exposed. One portion of the building has begun to rust. But I think the main story there is that the president cut the sword in May last year for the construction of the project and gave a completion deadline of 36 months. Deutsche Bank funding the project estimated 155 million. Architects and designers are saying now we have to reschedule, we have to rearrange the whole thing because we have to pull the thing down and start from scratch. So we don't know if the 155 million will be enough. We don't know if the 36 months will still be the length of time they would use. That's the main issue. The other question
is, are we going to put up the same design or we are going to put up a different design?
Good question.
The other question is, we've seen...
Which means that if they're going to do a new design, the timeline will have to change.
We've seen buildings built with the same material last for 200, 250 years.
Yes.
How come this one for 45 years?
45 years.
It's
45 years. Because it's 40,
just how to deal with the elements we have here. It's now in an unstable...
Exposed. It wasn't... If it had been finished, so for example, there was no roof. So if the rainwater enters for 44 years...
There was no roof?
Well, from the photo I see, I'm not sure.
No, it's a multi-story structure, right?
Okay.
If rainwater enters for 45 years, right? If the building was built right, because it's concrete, right? It's a whole mass of stone that we put up.
You don't expect it to just deteriorate like that?
Well, I think that there should be a probe into this thing.
How big is the building?
Really big.
Do you know how many rooms?
Very big. Pardon?
How many rooms?
It was supposed to be 1,000-bed capacity.
Are you serious?
Maternity and pediatric block.
1,000 beds?
Yes, it was supposed to be a 1,000-bed capacity maternity and pediatric block. So I think that a full probe needs to be instituted.
So 45 years ago is 1970.
A champon. I think a champon's time.
6 years.
Yes, a champon.
Yeah.
Wow. And they're pulling the whole thing. So it's going to take a lot to pull it down because if you look at the size, viewers, listeners, we have a photo of the building. It's really huge. So to pull all of this down and start from scratch, the budget is going to change, timeline is going to change. Very serious.
And then that also must drive us into a national conversation into locked up capital. Projects we start that we do not finish. We lock up the money. The projects don't give us any value. On the public side and the private side.
If you're listening in Ashanti region, send us a comment. What do you make of this project? Almost 1,000-bed maternity block to have been finished in 36 months, 3 years, now would have to probably take a longer time, cost us more money because of years of neglect. Nathan.
If you go to page 7 of the Daily Statesman, since we are talking hospitals, sad story, 2 perish in Akuse road accident.
Again?
Now, a fatal accident involving a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter bus at Adela Kope near Akuse Junction on the Akosombo to Tema motorway stretch has claimed the lives of 2 male passengers. The accident, which occurred on Monday at about 6:40 p.m., also left several passengers on board the Sprinter bus in critical condition. Now, information gathered indicates that the driver was heading towards Bassa from Ashaiman. Bassa from Ashaiman, and on reaching Adela Kope, one of the tires of the bus got burst, which forced the driver to lose control of the wheel, sending the vehicle into the bush and hitting a big tree.
Kojo, you read a story about a 39-year jail sentence for robber and rapist. You know, I've seen a story from Nigeria that a governor has signed laws to approve the death sentence for rapists. Wow. And this is the Premium Times. I thought it was quite interesting. Now, but let's hear the story first. You have
Alberto Mario Noreti
yes.
For the Ghanaian Times, that Prince Edu, the notorious gangster who played hide and seek with the whole police for almost 2 years before he was finally nabbed last Thursday at his hideout, has been sentenced to a total of 39 years imprisonment for 2 robbery cases by the whole High Court. He pleaded guilty in both cases, and in one instance in October 2019, Edu and another person who were armed with a machete and metal bars held 2 students of a university in Ho hostage in their hostel rooms, robbed them of their cellular phones and other belongings before raping them.
Can you imagine?
Now, Chief Superintendent Akogo Yakubu Ayamga told the court presided over by Mr. Felix Dachumo that the gangsters then forced the 2 students to disclose their mobile money transfer pins to them.
Can you imagine?
He then proceeded to a mobile money merchant at 4 a.m. to withdraw 80 cedis from one of the phones. That led to the arrest of Banichi, his accomplice. Edu then went into hiding. Which mobile money merchant works at 4 a.m.?
The other question I need to ask is, a lot of these universities and their hostels, they don't provide security. You know, people charge students exorbitant amounts of money. Hostels are, you know, this is when I went to university abroad. There were even private hostels which were university approved, and there were basic things you needed to do for the university to agree for students to sleep there. In this country, you have a school that is set up in some place, somebody has a hostel in some bush. There's no proper regulation. So somebody can set up some hostel somewhere, students are attacked, the university doesn't even care. You know, we have to be more responsible leaders even in those spaces, because you can't expose students to such robberies. And I've had students call me and say to me that even in certain universities in Accra, when they are walking from their hostels to the university, sometimes if it's beyond 7 p.m., they don't want to move. Meanwhile, you are collecting school fees from these people. It's not right. Once somebody is under your care as a university, you should be responsible for their security. You have to provide proper lighting. And those who just build hostels and charge people money without even giving proper, it's terrible. Can you imagine what trauma these 2 girls have gone through? Look at the guy's face. See if you should go and slap him. Meanwhile, the Nigerian governor has signed laws approving death sentence for rapists. Well, I don't know what you think about that. The governor of Jigawa State has assented to a bill stipulating stiffer punishments for rapists. It's called the New Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. Stipulates the death penalty for rapists who infect their victims with HIV/AIDS. Look at that. Some people are just not correct. Let's come to the Daily Guide and wrap up with a few quick headlines.
Well, yes, there's a story on page 13 of the Daily Guide. It says, Quack Doctors Clinic closed down.
Again.
The Medical and Dental Council
it's like cat and mouse. You close down one, another opens.
Council of Ghana has closed down the facility operated by a traditional birth attendant, Paul Amaonu, popularly known as Dr. Paul.
Look at that.
Whose recent activities allegedly caused the deaths of an expected mother and her baby. According to the MDC, the facility called Royal Mediclinic at Peaceland, located at Peaceland in the Kpong Katamansu municipality of Accra, was being operated by the suspect without a license. The MDC said the clinic was not certified and did not meet the requirements of a treatment center.
Kojo, you read a story about Ghana's Day of Shame, one of the headlines. Can you just give me that quickly?
It's sitting right in front of me, the New Crusading Guide. 24th February is Ghana's Day of Shame. This is the Socialist Forum. Now, the Socialist Forum has declared 24th February as Ghana's Day of Shame. And according to the forum, February 24 was a day on which one of the most malicious attacks on African independence was launched. The vicious attack, according to the forum, was launched from Ghana a designed attack by the intelligence services of Western imperialism and executed by a handful of people described as who conspired with the leadership of the Dankwa-Buziat political tradition. According to the Socialist Forum, the attack succeeded due to the weaknesses inherent in the CPP and the progressive movement in the time. And they're basically talking about how Nkrumah was overthrown.
Can you imagine?
And where it's gotten us. So now the CPP actually has been speaking.
Yes, on the same issue.
Yes, they say that we should rally behind them to bring back Ghana's lost glory.
Yes.
The story is in the Ghanaian Times. The Convention People's Party has appealed to the citizenry to rally behind the party in order to bring back the nation's lost glory and help industrialize the country for the needed growth and development. It blamed the current suffering of Ghanaians on the decision by the NLC with the support and assistance of a section of the society to overthrow its founder and leader, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
BNFT?
Yeah, if you go to the BNFT, it says banks must keep to brand promise, not just profits.
True.
So the story written by Bernard Yao Ashiade says profitability is key to a bank's health and growth, but that should not override other factors such as the brand's promise, integrity, constant innovation, and adherence to ethics. According to the Chartered Institute of Bankers, and it said that in its extensive review of 2020. And there's a quote: customers expect banks and banking practitioners to stand for something more than just profits. They expect us to keep to our brand promise, either as individuals, practitioners, or as financial institutions. Now, the institute, in nudging banks to stay true to what they say, believes that to consolidate the gains and confidence of customers and businesses in the banking sector and reaffirm that banking thrives on confidence, poise, and self-assurance that stakeholders, customers, and clients have in bankers.
Final stories from London. We are told that lockdown has made London a boom town for rats. And this is an interesting story. So apparently, they call them bird watchers and some of these other people who monitor these rodents in town. They're basically saying that because many restaurants and office buildings in London city centre remain empty, rats have been forced to migrate to residential areas in search of food. Now, the gentleman interviewed described rats as survival machines. Wherever you get reliable access to water or food or waste, they will keep coming back. So because the restaurants in the city are closed because of COVID, and families are spending more time at home and eating all their meals at home, it has led to an increase in refuse. And this is luring rats into suburban towns. And you know, sometimes we don't even understand the purpose of these rodents. We think that, they are just nuisance, kill it and eat. If these scavengers like vultures and rodents and things are not there, you'll be surprised the chaos that the food ecosystem can get.
So they provide what we call ecological services.
Exactly.
They clean up the system. They sometimes carry some diseases too. So we just need to manage.
So they are saying that now there are more rats coming to people's houses in London because the boiler they live in front of their house has food in it. So people are coming out of their rooms and they're seeing rats greet them.
But around the world, people are reporting seeing more nature these days because of lockdowns. Birds are coming out more because cars are not moving, the pollution, the noise and everything. Other animals are also trying to feel at ease because spaces humans used to occupy and dominate have now been left empty. So it's interesting.
You know, but what I find interesting is the job of the gentleman who he said he gets 10 to 15 rodent calls a week. So there's somebody in London whose job it is to find rodents.
Charlie, let's export Belala stop. Let's export Belala. At least it's also Belala stop.
Me trap in Nachi Bela. Thank you, Kojo. Thank you, Nathan. That was the newspaper review. Coming up next is the Citi Business News.